there's a lot of ways to make mistakes within relationships, but we don't have to do them with the intention. The biggest thing that needs to be understood in a relationship is your partner. And if you're going to be honest, you already know the things that makes your partner happy. You already know the things that make your partner sad. So don't do that. All right, so this is an interesting subject. And we talk a lot on this channel about relationships. And it's a passion of mine. I mean, I've not been in the best relationships. I've learned a lot. And as I'm getting older, I'm sharing with people perhaps older than I am or people younger than I am my experiences because I believe that we should all look at it this way. But to really understand the mistakes that we should avoid when we're in a relationship, we need to first understand what a mistake is. How about that? So a mistake is an action or it is a judgment that is misguided. It's wrong. All right. So we could say it's a wrong judgment. We could say it's a misunderstanding. We could even say it's a wrong action or a statement proceeding from a faulty judgment, inadequate knowledge, not enough knowledge, or it's an intention, a mistake. So in relationships, now we're talking about at the point where you're with a person and perhaps you're proceeding to go to the next level. Maybe it's more serious than it was initially, or perhaps you're going in the direction of getting married. And I speak on relationships like that because relationships must have a goal. You're not just partnering with someone just so you can be with them forever. No, we didn't define marriage. We didn't define relationships. These things were defined for us years ago. So if a man and a woman is going to come together, ultimately, that should end in marriage. I mean, it's just like if you make a car, it's not supposed to be just sitting in your driveway. A car was created so it can be driven. If you have a baseball, it's not so that it can be used in the wrong way. Maybe, you sit on it. Hey, I mean, if you're trying to figure out some way to resolve some pain, that might be a good idea, rolling around on a little baseball on your thighs or so forth with your back. It can help. But I think you understand the point. So when it comes to relationships, these things were pre-designed before you and I ever existed. So basically, we're just picking up the pieces now. And we realize already that within relationships, there come some problems. So here's some mistakes to avoid. The first thing I would really say, when I looked at this subject, I said, wow, you know what? I really want to talk about this. The first thing is you cannot be in relationships believing that men and women are so different. You just can't. We are human beings. We are people. We feel, we think, we hurt, we love, we cheer, we have joy, we have power. So with a partner, you want to be equal. To think that your partner is somehow so different from you, you've already broken the connection. That's a mistake. That's an intention. That's a judgment that you've made. And it really separates you from your partner. What you want to do is find ways to bring you and your partner together, even when it comes to making decisions. Making decisions solo is another problem and a big mistake that happens in relationships. What is so wrong with really being a partner? Remember, these are terms that were around before you and I ever existed. So when we say partner, we're talking about people that work together. They make decisions together. They grow together. They live together. They prosper together. So if you're about to make a decision that impacts your household, maybe it's choosing not to pay this bill, but pay another bill. There may be consequences that come from that. But wouldn't it be better if you spoke to your partner about it first? Now, we're not talking about the unreasonable partner, the one that says, okay, go do that if you want to. And then when things go awry, they want to bring out all your failures. Now, that could be a mistake too. So it's good to know your partner. Now, there's a lot of ways to make mistakes within relationships, but we don't have to do them with the intention. The biggest thing that needs to be understood in a relationship is your partner. You need to understand your partner. And if you're going to be honest, you already know the things that make your partner happy. You already know the things that make your partner sad. So don't do that. It could even cost you your relationship. So we want to avoid these type of mistakes. We want to always take the feelings and the emotions and the concerns and the goals of the other person, that is your partner, and you put those before you. That is your goal. Now imagine what kind of relationship you can have if you're putting the other person first, their interests first, and guess what? They're doing the same thing with you. See, the mistake is only one person doing it, because only one person is going to benefit in a sense. Because really, if you're doing things just to make your partner happy and they're not doing things to make you happy, you're basically two miserable people. And that's not a good relationship. That's a relationship that needs some conversation. But I'm of the mindset that, you know what, when you started off in this relationship with the person and you saw them for who they were, and you were all excited and you wanted to explore where would this go. See, in order to keep the strength of that relationship going, you have to avoid some mistakes, or we could even increase the word to pitfalls. And as we mentioned, you need to know your partner. Now, you need to also have an open mind. So I was listening in on a conversation between a man and a woman who've been dating, planning to get married. So the woman says to the man, she doesn't like the fact that when he comes home, he throws his jacket on the chair and he goes straight to the television. She doesn't like that. And she voiced her opinion, but she voiced it this way: that's going to threaten our relationship. I'm like, wow, did she really just say that? Yes, she said that. These are petty things. See, the mistake is dwelling on the negative. See, there's so much positive about a person. My mom would always say, you don't have to look for the negative in people. That's always in front of us all the time because we're always imperfect. But you need to dig deep to find out what's positive. Now, if you spend your time on focusing what's positive, for example, here's your partner and they're paying the bills. If they're paying the bills, are you really going to worry about whether he comes home and puts his coat on the chair and sits down and watch television? Should that be the most important thing? See, that's a mistake. That's a lack of good judgment right there. Because if he's gone out of the picture, you've got to double down on the bills. And that's not where you want to take it. You don't want the relationship to go to the point that it has to end. Relationships are always in repair mode. We're always repairing our relationships because we all have problems and nobody's perfect. But we should be so into the strength of the relationship that we see the positive more than we see the negative. But then what about her? So maybe she's the type of person that, you come home and she irritates you by asking you to do something over and over and over again. And didn't you tell me that this morning? You told me that yesterday. Well, when you gonna respond? See, the mistake, fellas, is that, women will always want to make you comfortable. When a woman starts to do what we feel like is a complaint, she's really saying, listen, this is how we get peace and maintain peace within the structures of our home. So if she asks you to take out the trash more than one time, she's asking you really to keep the peace in the house. In order to keep peace in the house, I need you to listen to me. I need you to do this because this is irritating me. So the mistake would be delaying it. I mean, what's wrong with just doing it right now? And it goes vice versa. Women have to do the same thing. Women have to be cautious of the things that they say to men, just like men have to be cautious of what we say to women. There are a lot of mistakes to avoid when it comes to relationships, but it all comes down to what are you more focused on? If you are really focused on the negative, you know what? You're not in a good place in a relationship. Perhaps you're not even ready for a relationship. Some people say stuff like this. Before they even get into a relationship, they have a rule. If my husband or my wife cheats on me, I'm just going to divorce her. You don't know what you're going to do until you are actually in that situation. So to have a preconceived idea, that is an intention. And the intention becomes a mistake because if you're really putting all that you have into this relationship to make it positive, I'm not saying those things would never happen because it depends on what the other person is putting into the relationship. But if two people are putting everything they have in a relationship, those things won't happen. But they happen because of problems on both sides, the victim and the perpetrator. It's problems on both sides. So you have to always think about what is it that you can do to add strength and power to your relationship. Concentrate on the things that you focus on. Like they're just some things that are not necessarily mistakes. They're just incidental to life. You're going into work and your company was bought out by a larger company and they fire all the employees and you come home and you try to explain this to your partner. Maybe you're explaining it to your husband. Listen, it's going to be rough. Well, you know what? If he gets upset about that, then guess what? He's got a problem because in our society, ultimately, that is the responsibility of the man who claims that he's head of the family. Head of the family takes care of the family. So if something happens to the income of the wife, it falls back on the head of the family. It's just like if there is no husband, but there's a woman and she's head of the family and she loses her job, does it fall down to the children? No, because she's head of the family. She has the responsibility. If the children were out doing particular tasks, they added income to the family and they stopped. Guess what? She's head of the family. So the head of the family is a person responsible for making sure the family continues to go forward financially. That's what the head of the family does. And it's not an easy job. But mistakes are made when people misplace their roles within the relationship. Just because a woman may make more money than the man does not give her power over the man. I know a lot of men whose wives are multimillionaires. Yes. And the man isn't. He actually became a manager. He works for her as opposed to having another job. We've heard of famous people doing this, marrying regular folks. They're movie stars. They make millions. What they really are looking for is just the contentment within the relationship, the peace. So there are lots of mistakes. Anything that agitates your spouse or the person that you're with, just avoid it. Avoid those mistakes because then you're going to be passing on a judgment that you might not be able to get out of. Or you could be passing on an intention, something that you created. And don't be the crazy person. Don't go and create the problem and then blame it on somebody else. Put the blame on you. It's a lot easier to work on yourself than to try to make somebody else do the things that you want them to do because you can't control them, but you can control you. So why don't you start there? You want to fix something, you want to undo a mistake, start with yourself. Fix you. In the strength of your relationship and in the communication arena of your relationship, you can encourage your partner to do the same. So I hope this has been good for you. I hope this has been enlightening. Just a few ideas. Look at it this way. Stay tuned for the next video. But before then, please like and share this video and other videos that we have on the platform with anyone you like. We look forward to your support. And we thank you so much. And please hit the like. And if you want to make comments, please make comments. Let me know what you think about this material. I'm interested in your point of view. Just want to share some additional things with you. And you have a great day. Bye.